Hello everyone. Today let's continue the story of single mother Diệu Hân. After returning to her familiar home and reuniting with Tom, Hân felt as if she had been lifted out of a long nightmare. The moment Tom rushed into her arms, his little hands clinging tightly to his mother, and the cry of "Mom!" echoing through the silent room, Hân's heart nearly burst. She hugged her child tightly, tears streaming uncontrollably. Tears of overwhelming happiness mixed with the suffocating pain of remembering all those days she had lived in a void, her mind so clouded that she couldn't even recall the face of her own child. Tom stood nearby, his warm gaze quietly watching, allowing mother and child to be immersed in that sacred moment. As Tom's warmth seeped into her skin, fragments of memories began to stir. Hân faintly heard Tom's babbling as he first learned to speak, the sound of his laughter when his father carried him on his shoulders. Images of a simple family meal, a bowl of vegetable soup, a plate of braised fish, suddenly came back. Yet everything was like shattered glass, only reflecting scattered fragments, lacking continuity and wholeness. Sometimes she recalled herself humming a lullaby to put Tom to sleep, but the moment she tried to sing, the lyrics vanished, leaving behind an aching emptiness. Hân fell into a strange state of conflict. The joy of reunion was like light, yet the incompleteness of her memory was like shadows creeping in from all sides. She wanted to gather every piece of memory, but the harder she tried, the more they slipped away, leaving gaps that tightened her chest. Tom sat beside her, resting a hand gently on her shoulder, patiently reassuring her. "Don't worry, don't force yourself to remember everything right away. We have time. The most important thing is that you are here now with me and our child." His words soothed her, yet deep down the restlessness refused to fade. That night, when Tom was sound asleep, his steady breathing filling the quiet room, Hân sat leaning against the bed, gazing out the window. The pale silver moonlight spilled across the room, casting her face in a half-light of contemplation. Inside her mind, the fragments of memory still surged and broke like waves crashing against the shore only to vanish again. She knew she stood at the start of a long journey, not just to recover her memory, but to rediscover herself. A woman who had once loved, once endured suffering, and now longed to live fully beside her family. After holding Tom in her arms again, she felt the strings of memory begin to tremble. At first they were only vague flashes, the sound of Tom's cries in a stormy night, the dim glow of a hallway light, fleeting silhouettes rushing past. Those memories hid in the mist, as if trying to reveal something that had once happened, but was still shrouded in fog. One night while Tom slept, Hân gently touched a little blue wool sock he often wore. Instantly, her mind was pulled back to a forgotten moment. She remembered a stormy evening filled with shouting, the slam of a door. In that chaos, she seemed to see a strange woman carrying Tom and running out the gate. Hân jolted awake, her heart pounding wildly, sweat dripping from her forehead. In the days that followed, her memories became sharper. She remembered the pungent smell of cigarette smoke in the living room, the angry voice of a deep male tone, and the paralyzing fear that gripped her as she rushed to shield her child. Yet what haunted her most was the face of that woman, so strangely familiar, yet impossible to name. Tom noticed the unease in his wife's eyes. He listened quietly, never interrupting, only tightening his grip on her hand whenever she trembled. He knew what Hân was recalling might be tied to the upheaval that had once shaken their family. He had hidden the truth, unwilling to reopen old wounds. But now, as her memories resurfaced, he realized that sooner or later she would have to face them. One afternoon, when sunlight streamed across the veranda, Hân caught sight of the old bamboo cradle in the storage room. That image unlocked the door of her memory. She remembered sitting beside the empty cradle, crying, each tear falling onto the small blanket left behind. And then the truth emerged. Tom had been taken away, and she had once run desperately into the storm to find him, only to collapse and lose her memory. Hân froze, her body rigid. The memories were no longer fragments but a continuous flow, revealing the terrifying event she had long buried. She sat silently beside the old cradle, her trembling hands tracing its rough, aged surface. The memory pierced her chest with pain, each breath tight and labored. She could clearly see the woman carrying Tom into the rainy night, yet her face remained blurred, shifting in and out of focus, tormenting Han with its elusiveness. The harder she tried, the sharper the pain in her head, as if hundreds of needles stabbed her mind. In the following nights, Han often woke with a start. She clearly heard hurried footsteps on the porch, the creak of the door opening, and Tom's heart-wrenching cries echoing in her dreams. Each time she woke, she found Tom beside her, his eyes red from sleepless nights. He said nothing, only held her tightly, as though afraid she would once again be swallowed by her buried memories. Han knew a truth awaited her behind that door of memory, but that truth would not be easy. It held pain and secrets that Tom seemed determined to hide. The more she thought, the more she felt a strange familiarity in that woman's figure, her gestures, her walk, as if she were someone who had once walked through Han's life, leaving an indelible scar. A vague fear rose within her. If the truth were revealed, would she have the strength to bear it? Would this fragile family remain whole, or shatter once more? The atmosphere in the house grew heavier than ever. Tom remained innocent, playing and laughing, but every time his laughter rang out, Han's heart ached, haunted by the echo of his cries from that fateful night. The story now hovers on a fragile threshold. Between the light of reunion and the darkness of the past, only one unopened door remains. And both Han and Tom know that one day soon, the truth will find its way out. Tom watched Han's condition grow more complicated with each passing day, and his heart ached. He loved her deeply, yet felt powerless against her relentless headaches and the flickering fragments of memory that came and went. He didn't know how to help her reclaim the past, nor did he dare to press her with questions, afraid of deepening the wounds already carved into her heart. All he could do was remain quietly by her side, tending to her meals and rest, holding and playing with Tom so that both mother and child could feel some peace. There were nights when he stayed awake until dawn, simply watching Han toss and turn, his hand gently clasping hers to share a little warmth. During the day he rearranged his work, staying home more often, cooking the dishes she had once loved, hoping familiar flavors might stitch her memories back together. Tom understood that sometimes love wasn't about finding an immediate solution, but about patiently walking beside someone, no matter how foggy and uncertain the road ahead. For him, as long as Han and Tom were with him, every hardship was worth it. With Han's birthday approaching, a flood of emotions stirred in his heart. In previous years, she had barely paid attention to it, letting the day slip by like any other. But this time, after all the upheaval, the broken memories and the unhealed wounds, Tom wanted to do something special, something to remind her she was still cherished and treasured. He wanted to bring her a small surprise, hoping to see a genuine smile bloom again on the face of the woman he loved. Over the past few days he began planning in his mind. He thought of ordering a simple cake. Nothing extravagant, just warm and heartfelt, with words he had pondered for a long time. "Happy birthday, Han, thank you for coming back." He pictured her lighting the candles, the flickering glow softening her gentle face, and within him rose a belief. Sometimes a single small moment is enough to soothe the deepest wounds. He also wanted to prepare a special surprise together with little Tom. The idea of teaching their son a birthday song made Tom smile with hope. He knew the child's voice would be halting and imperfect, but that innocence would make the gift priceless. He even considered buying Tom a set of crayons so the boy could draw a picture of their family, 3 figures holding hands beneath one roof, simple yet overflowing with love. Tom kept all of this to himself. He wanted it to remain a secret, to preserve the purity of the surprise. Now and then, he pretended to be busy, slipping out to make preparations, though inside he felt like a child brimming with anticipation. Still, beneath his excitement lay a lingering worry. He knew Han's mind was fragile, her memories fractured and unsettled. The shadow of that mysterious woman was still an open wound. Yet Tom believed that if he could show Han how full of love her present life was, that love itself would be the most precious medicine, giving her strength to carry on. He told himself, if she smiles that day, if I can see her happy with me and our child, then all of this effort will be worth it. Tom set about the preparations with meticulous care, pouring his heart into the plan. He wanted everything to be just right. Not only to surprise her, but to create a warm space filled with joy, hoping such beauty might awaken the good memories buried within her. Quietly, he went to the town's bakery, carefully choosing a cake just the right size for family and close friends. On top, he asked the baker to write a simple message, "Happy birthday, Han. May you always be happy." Afterward, he stopped by a flower shop, selecting a bouquet of white roses mixed with hydrangeas, the very flowers Han had once spoken of with such admiration. As for little Tom, Tom patiently taught him the birthday song line by line. Sometimes the boy sang off beat and burst into giggles, but that laughter alone warmed Tana's heart. He also bought him crayons, encouraging him to draw a picture of their family. Whenever Tom scribbled away, Tan would smile quietly, imagining Han's tears of joy when she received such a sweet, innocent gift. But Tan didn't stop there. He secretly reached out to a few close friends who had once shared precious memories with them both, inviting them to join the small celebration. He hoped their presence, the cheerful stories and warm laughter would help revive the memories buried in Han's heart. Every step of preparation made Tan more nervous. He hid everything carefully so that Han wouldn't suspect. In his eyes gleamed anticipation and an unshakable faith that on this birthday Han would smile more, that her memories would no longer remain scattered fragments, but could slowly mend, piece by piece, through the love of her family and friends. Han's birthday finally arrived. From the moment he woke up, Tan tried to keep everything looking ordinary, but inside he was restless with anticipation. He had been quietly preparing for days, hoping to bring Han a warm surprise. He invited Han and little Tom to stroll through the market under the pretense of buying groceries. To Han it was nothing unusual. She had no idea that inside their small home, a hidden joy was waiting. While the three were away, Han and Tana's closest friends arrived at the house, each lending a hand to decorate. Someone hung bright balloons across the ceiling, another arranged flowers in the familiar ceramic vase, while others placed gifts and an album of old photos on the table. In just a few hours, the modest living room was transformed into a bright, cozy space, radiating the atmosphere of a special day. By late afternoon, when the family returned, Han opened the door and froze. Warm light spilled out from inside, accompanied by jubilant voices. "Happy birthday, Han!" The entire room burst into applause and laughter, faces glowing with joy. Stunned, Han's eyes widened, disbelief and emotion flooding her. Her heart pounded, her breath caught in her throat, and tears welled up uncontrollably. Friends rushed to embrace her, showering her with simple yet heartfelt wishes. One of them opened the photo album, turning page after page filled with memories. Radiant smiles at the beach, lively gatherings, cozy nights around a fire. Only then did Tan step forward, holding a bouquet of white roses and a small cake adorned with flickering candles. He didn't speak much. He simply handed them to her, his deep, gentle voice resonating. "Happy birthday. May you always be happy." The candlelight shimmered in Han's tear-filled eyes. At that very moment, little Tom began to sing "Happy Birthday," the song Tan had patiently taught him in recent days. His voice was halting, slightly offbeat, but the room fell completely silent, listening to each pure note. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Tom scampered over and pressed into his mother's hand a childlike drawing of three figures standing together beneath a small roof. The lines were clumsy, innocent, but carried a sincerity that no gift could equal. Han clutched her son tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She lifted her gaze to take in the laughter, the familiar faces, the faint scent of flowers, all of it blending like puzzle pieces of memory returning to her. She remembered birthdays long ago, remembered songs, remembered smiles. A warmth spread through her chest, both familiar and new. Tan stood quietly nearby, his eyes filled with tenderness. He was not her husband, had never dared to claim anything more than quiet care. But in that moment, all he wanted was for Han to feel she was not alone. She had him, she had Tom, she had her friends, all ready to stand by her, no matter how blurred her memories remained. Through her tears, Han smiled, hugging Tom even closer, then nodded softly at Tan. In her eyes shone gratitude, emotion, and the fragile spark of new hope, like a seed just beginning to sprout. That night, when the party was over and the house returned to its usual quiet, balloons still floated on the ceiling, the fragrance of roses lingered faintly, and the candles had melted into thin trails of smoke. Han sat silently by the window, cradling Tom asleep on her lap. His steady breathing mingled with the stillness of night, pulling her into reflection. The evening had passed like a beautiful dream. The laughter, the wishes, the friends, the careful preparations, all seemed to sweep away the heavy fog clouding her mind. Now and then, flashes of familiar images glimmered. Past parties, carefree days. They weren't yet clear, but the warmth made her heart tremble, as though a lost piece of herself had returned. What lingered most in Han's mind, however, was the way Tan had looked at her throughout the evening. He had said little, never drawing attention to himself, yet his gaze followed her quietly, filled with something more: care, understanding, and a deep feeling he never spoke aloud. Whether handing her flowers, placing the cake before her, or guiding Tom's little song, every gesture revealed a tenderness that could not be hidden. Glancing at her son, then back toward the living room where Tan was tidying up, Han noticed him gathering scraps of wrapping paper, adjusting chairs, moving carefully but wearily. The soft glow of the lamp fell across his face, highlighting its gentle, steady features. Her chest tightened. She realized that all this time, Tan had been silently holding her and Tom up, never demanding, never asking for recognition. A thought crossed her mind, leaving her unsettled. Perhaps Tana's care was not merely responsibility or concern. In his eyes, in his quiet gestures, was there an unspoken love he had yet to confess? Late into the night, the breeze stirred the curtains. Han held Tom tighter, her eyes misty, yet her lips curved into a faint smile. It was a smile not only for the happiness of the moment, but also for the dawning realization that she had someone who would always be there, waiting, protecting, no matter how uncertain her memories remained. In the days following the birthday celebration, Han's spirit changed noticeably. The unexpected joy and the warm care from her friends and from Tan felt like a fresh breeze, gently stirring the memories still buried deep within her mind. Sometimes, while lulling Tom to sleep, she suddenly recalled the sound of birthday songs from years past, laughter echoing around the dinner table, or the comforting pats on her shoulder from friends. Once scattered fragments of memory now began to link together, forming clearer and more coherent recollections. One morning, as the early sunlight streamed through the window, Han sat sorting through her birthday gifts. When her eyes fell upon the photo album her friends had brought, her hands trembled slightly. Turning each page was like drifting backward through time. She remembered wearing that floral dress on a picnic, hearing the waves crashing on the shore, and the shouts of joy as the group let kites soar into the sky. Overwhelmed, Han burst into tears, tears of both relief and fear, for the memories were so vivid they made her shiver. That afternoon when Tan came home, he found Han sitting motionless by the album, her eyes red and swollen. He hurried toward her, concern in his voice, but before he could say anything, Han lifted her head and whispered, "I remember, just a little, but I know I was once so happy." Tan froze, his breath caught. Gently, he squeezed her shoulder, too afraid to speak more. lest she become overwhelmed. But in his eyes glimmered a quiet hope, the hope that day by day her memories would return more fully. In the nights that followed amid restless sleep, familiar images returned to Han's dreams. Tom babbling his first words, the sting of a scraped knee after a fall, evenings by a campfire with friends trading stories. Each time she woke, her heart raced wildly, but her eyes shone brighter than before. Tom noticed the change. He didn't press her with questions or demands. Instead, he quietly created simple moments for her. A warm meal, a gentle walk through the neighborhood, or casual stories that touched on the past. Each act was like a thread, patiently stitching together the torn fabric of her memory. And then one evening, as Tom scampered happily in the yard, Han turned to look at Tom and smiled softly. In her gaze there was more than gratitude. There was a new glimmer, as if silently acknowledging that the memories returning to her were not only reminders of past pain, but also an opening toward a new future, one where she could place her trust and lean on him. Though her memories had not fully returned, Han felt a rare sense of peace stirring within her. Each morning when she awoke, she would find that Tom had risen early, preparing a simple yet thoughtful breakfast. Whenever the headaches came crashing down on her, he never spoke much. He simply sat quietly by her side, handing her a warm cup of water or gently massaging her shoulder to ease the pain. Han realized that during the time when her mind was clouded, when she could not even remember the most important things, it was Tom who had patiently stayed. He cared for Tom's every meal and sleep, and worried about even the smallest details for her. Without needing words, she could feel that warmth, an attentive care she had not known for a very long time. One evening, after Tom had fallen fast asleep, Han sat out on the veranda, gazing up at the star-filled sky. Tom stepped out quietly, carrying a light jacket, and gently draped it over her shoulders. In that moment, her heart tightened. She turned to look at him, her eyes glistening as she whispered, "During the days when I couldn't remember anything, you stayed with me. Thank you for that." Tom paused, his gaze tender yet tinged with hesitation. He didn't answer right away, only smiled softly before sitting down beside her. Beneath the dim golden light, their shadows stretched long across the yard. A quiet testament to a companionship both silent and enduring. Han knew there were still many uncertainties in her past, many fragments of memory yet to be found. But she also understood this. The present, having Tom by her side and Tom laughing innocently in her arms, was the most precious foundation on which she could stand, slowly finding her way back to all that had been lost.
Xin chào mọi người, lại là mình đây. Chúc mọi người có một ngày làm việc vui vẻ và hạnh phúc và tràn đầy năng lượng. Thì hiện tại những video của mình đang đăng tải vào khung giờ 7 giờ tối tại Việt Nam, và chủ yếu là kể về những câu chuyện về những người mẹ đơn thân, nên là hy vọng mọi người sẽ yêu thích những video của mình và bật thông báo, like hoặc share để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất. Đặc biệt là mọi người nhớ cho mình một nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận để những video sau mình sẽ cải thiện hay và hấp dẫn hơn để cho mọi người xem. Và nhớ ủng hộ kênh cho mình để kênh của mình ngày càng phát triển, sẽ mang đến nhiều câu chuyện về cuộc sống và về những người mẹ đơn thân ở Việt Nam để mọi người hiểu rõ hơn. Một lần nữa cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình. Rất mong được sự ủng hộ của mọi người để kênh của mình ngày càng phát triển hơn. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.